K-Dog.
What's going on?
The last guest came through here and brought premium bourbons for me to sample, and then you show up with nothing for me to sample. The contrast is... I have to acknowledge the contrast.
Listen.
Yeah.
First of all, where was I when this last guest came around? How come I wasn't a part of the sampling?
You don't like bourbon.
I don't like bourbon, but there are other things.
They didn't bring other things. It was bourbon.
I was drinking a matcha latte. I could have brought you one of those, and it would have even been better for you than bourbon. I didn't, but I could have.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, next time if you'd have brought me some of your grass water, I would have appreciated it.
Yes.
At least it would have been a gesture that you were willing to participate like our last guest.
I was like, I get it. They brought bourbon, but here is your grass water.
Yes. Well, thank you. I like the sentiment means more than the actual action.
Next time I come, I'm bringing grass water.
All right. What do you want to talk about today?
I don't know. I don't even know. Health? We talk about that a lot. I was feeling good because I was feeling healthy this morning. I've been, eating better. I've been working out better and doing all the things that make you feel good about yourself. And I just saw some girl walk in the building with a bunch of pizzas, and that's all I can think about now.
Psychologically, you've been damaged.
I know. Someone had chocolate the other day at work, and I was like a crackhead. I was like, I can't. And I was like telling people, I need you to hide this. Take this, please. I can't be trusted around it.
When we first started talking about this, and, people get so pissed off at me when I say that these things are true addictions. You won't really know how big of an addiction, how much you'll fight and connive to have the thing that your brain wants. Even if you know it's terrible for you and you're going to pay consequences for it, until you get in this state of mind right now. Like, I went to, took my family to Cranex last night. Cranex, every year we go out there, and their selection of treats and candies is off the charts, right? And there's not a single thing that was appealing walking down those aisles for me. So it is absolutely possible to rewire your brain so that you do not want that stuff at all.
Not even like, I shouldn't eat that. I know that my goals are more important to me than that is, so I'm a little unbothered. But you're saying like, don't even want it.
So that's where you're at, where you are defying the cravings and doing what's healthy for you. There's a point where your brain just kind of gives up the fact that you're not going to give the crack to it, and it dissociates from it, and you no longer want it or crave it. But it's substituted for other things. Like, I have an unhealthy addiction to avocados.
Really?
For the addicted, that seems weird. But I rewired the brain to like certain things more than other things. But those things that I like are just healthy versions or healthy things.
Do you crave avocados?
I do. I
really
love avocados.
See, I had a weird thing happen with my brain. Years and years ago, when we decided we want to start having kids and we were trying to get pregnant, I was eating a lot of avocados for the folic acid. Well, then I got pregnant, and I was one of those people that got like super sick with pregnancy, just 24/7 nausea. It was awful. And so when I was in that state, the idea of an avocado could make me puke. Mm-hmm. I couldn't see it. I couldn't hear about it. If I saw a commercial for one, I would be like, oh my God, like I could not be around avocados. I like them now. That has since gone away. But it was the most intense association with that and nausea that it was like, I can't do it. I'm glad that's gone. But I would love to be addicted to a healthy food and not
it does.
bad
you
food.
do it long enough. And I'll always pay attention to, like, when I'll have, maybe I go on keto for 6 months and all I do is eat lots of protein. So I'll have a pound of meat every single day. So there's certain meats, like I'll have venison, I'll have beef, I'll have pork, I'll have turkey, like I'll mix it up. And then I will go off of it for a month to kind of, recycle things through. And I will feel so dog shit bad when I get off of those foods. I think, like, why am I going to put myself through feeling I mean, this is the way that people feel every day of their lives.
Yeah.
And I get a 6 month of not feeling like that at all. And so the circuitry in your brain really starts craving the things that you know made you feel good when you did long stretches of it. So let's just say you do health stuff, 0 bad things, 0 tasty things, 0 sugary things. It will be such a distant memory in your brain, and the stuff that you gravitate to on the daily will become its new substitute. It does happen.
How long do you think it takes to get to that point where you were like, donuts, cookies, sweets, pizza, unbothered?
I think you could do it right away, but you have to create a long stretch of deprivation so that it doesn't even know what that stuff tastes like anymore.
I had an interesting conversation with someone just the other day. We were talking about drinking and getting older. And I was saying the older I get, the less I am into alcohol because I feel so shitty. And it's fun at the time, but how shitty I feel later is almost not even worth it anymore. I can't even take it. And so then I look into things like adaptogens and other things that might give you a funny feeling without feeling shitty later. And then I thought to myself, why? And it's not like I drink often. I'm really a social drinker. I drink at parties or dinners or social occasions, and that's really it. So why the need or the strong desire to be like, here's a social situation, I want to feel funny. I don't know if it's like maybe the endorphins or something or that good feeling, but it's like, well, I don't want a hangover and I don't want to feel shitty and I want to be able to sleep well. But I also want to alter my state of mind at this party. Why? Like, what's so bad about just being present and sober at a party? I don't know. It doesn't seem awful. I'm a sociable person. But yet here I am just like researching what can I drink and get like a fun feeling and not feel like shit the next morning.
We could dedicate an entire show. So I want you to remember this. And when we have, topics are light, we'll delve into this because I have lots of theories that are backed up by a lot of sciences. And the explanation is definitely not going to be a popular explanation. So it's perfect for this format. But it's a really long discussion, and we'll both have to be a little bit more prepared to enter into it when we go there.
My brain, for half of a second, thought you were going to say, we'll both have to be buzzed to go into it.
We might.
That would be a perfect thing.
But can you remember this and bring us back to this moment sometime in the future?
Yep, we're going to talk about alcohol and wanting to feel something when, yeah.
Okay.
Alcohol, adaptogens,
because it condemns other parts of our lifestyle. So like you got to look at some of these things as like, what's the intention, right? So if I said for the next 6 months, the only things you're going to do are have tos, right? So I'm going to only give my body what it has to. I'm going to breathe only what it has to. I'm going to only do things that have a have to, depriving all of the want tos, right, off to the side. And then when we look at it on a ledger, like how many things do we, only do to serve the vice side of our brain? And what happens when we take the vice side completely out? But I'm not going to go too deep into it because that, like I said, that deserves its own, own time.
Oh yeah. We could go down that rabbit hole for a while.
What else? You got to change gears on me because I'm going to say too much.
Let's see. So I was Googling recently and I was looking at trending stuff and random. Have you heard? Apparently it was a thing thought Steve Harvey died.
That's been happening for years.
What? Why?
There are certain people, they release obituaries on and they have to pipe up and say, no, guys, I'm not dead. It's a funny thing to do.
I'm like, what? Because I feel like the Steve Harvey himself has been a handful of times.
Yeah,
people have talked about this.
And he has to keep pipe. It's fun to do.
Why does that keep happening?
It is just what garners attention on social media. It's funny. It gets tons of circulation.
Who starts it?
I don't know. I don't. The phenomenon is beyond theory.
Oh my gosh. We're weird. We're weird as people. Another thing was Skibbity Toilet in Fortnite.
Yes.
Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
I know what Fortnite is. I know skibbity is a new word all the kids are saying. And there was an image that has some cartoon head coming out of a toilet.
Yes.
Again, I ask, what is wrong with us as beings in general?
Welcome to the club of giving up on humanity.
Yes.
When the trending things are so below perception. Like,
Yeah.
you really don't even want to jam the skibbity into the brain because
Yeah.
it's a thing.
I mean, I get like a lot of it were athletes. Okay. People watching sports. That makes sense. One of it was like a plane crash somewhere. Okay. That's kind of newsworthy. But I mean, more so than the drones, more so than Trump, more so than anything was skibbity toilet Fortnite and did Steve Harvey die? And I'm like, are we over? Are we over maybe the drama that is real news? Maybe we are. Maybe someone's like, I need some dumb shit in my life because it's getting too serious up in here.
That is absolutely correct assessment. So congratulations on coming to the conclusion that
Thank
humanity
you.
is doomed.
Thank you.
Let's talk about video games then.
Okay.
So last week there was the video game awards where they take all of the productions of video games and they find out what people are playing and liking and whatever. And for the last couple, I don't know, 10 years, it's been very boring because it's been the same genre of video games. Like when you were growing up, did you play video games?
A little bit. I'm not very good at video games. I'm a button pusher. I just keep hitting buttons.
What was your game? Like if you had to pick one game to play that you're going to have some kind of enjoyment, what's it going to be?
It wasn't very often. I can remember a handful of like Mario Kart where I'm just driving around. I'm not really doing anything. Or we had games like the Wii where you would do bowling or tennis or things of that nature. That's really it. I would watch other people. Like I'd watch my brothers play Mike Tyson's Punch-Out when we were little, and that can get exciting trying to like root for someone to get to the next level. But I was never a big gamer. Were you?
I've participated.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been.
Were you a gamer or just like I'll play on sometimes?
Well, there were a couple of games that had my attention for a couple months at a time, and it got to be a little obsessive when I was in my, going into college days. There was
college.
Yeah.
Wow, you must have had an active social life.
Totally. But like I said, the last 10 years have been first-person shooters. So it was just all about going around killing people, headshots, whatever, right? And it's been rather boring. And I have, I take that whole genre and I really think that it did no justice to condition, especially the youth, on desensitizing from taking someone's life. And it was all because I believe, we'll go back to the origins of video games. It's always been sort of like an outlet, right? You get to go into fantastical worlds, whether it's World of Warcraft or, something like Mario Brothers or whatever. And you just get to like jump into something that has just enough dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, all the good chemicals, right?
Yeah.
That you get from playing a virtual world. And the precursors for the simulation being entered as the brain into the computer world is that you get to experience not real things, but you still get the benefits without all the downside, right? Mm-hmm. So these virtual worlds have done a whole lot to give people escape, right? And I'm cool with escape as long as it's not, to a level that's harmful. I think everybody needs that. And, well, not everybody needs it, but it's definitely a vehicle that is the least destructive of other options.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, when, let's just say, we get entered into the computer system and we can experience any kind of anything. And whether or not, like, for instance, if there was a video game, you put on the goggles and then you get to do a bank heist, right? Repercussions for a bank heist is that you go to jail and you might get killed. The virtual version of it is you get all the adrenaline rush of a bank heist, thinking that you're doing a bank heist, maybe not getting the money at the end of the day with doing the bank heist, but you don't have any of the downsides. How many people would think that's an exhilarating X Games of, sort of some downtime? Is it replicatable in the real world? Well, is there something that gives you that rush, like bungee jumping, for instance? You can go off a bridge and jump off, get the adrenaline rush, and limited downside, right?
Well,
Would you be more likely to jump in the simulation and do a bungee jump than in real life?
yes.
Why?
Because I don't want to die.
Okay. Bungee jumping, though, I don't even know if it's a thing anymore. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But it would not. It would not last long if lots of people died while doing it.
Yeah.
So your chances of survival on a bungee jump are pretty high.
Yeah. Well, I feel like too you could just get hurt. The idea of the whole like on your body, oh god, it makes my neck hurt even thinking about it. I think I would like hurt my back.
All right,
or
well,
something.
pick something that's not a bungee jump that is exhilarating that you can replicate in the real world with limited downside.
You could do like skydiving in those anti-gravity things. You know what I'm talking about? Where you're kind of flying up and stuff. That seems fun. I've never done it, but
Okay,
it seems fun.
well, what about skydiving for real?
I don't want to do that.
Why?
Because I don't want to die.
Okay, so I understood the jarring nature of the bungee jump, but what would be jarring about actually doing a real skydive? So you jump on someone's back, who's someone who's done it 5,000 times,
Yeah.
really low chance of dying. Would you still do it?
But it's not low enough. I don't think I could ever skydive. Because people do die, and it might not be a lot of people, but it happens, and I don't want to die. I don't want to die that way.
Okay, name something that is. We're noticing a connection. The
Yes.
most exhilarating stuff in life is the stuff that has a trade-off with dying, right? Bungee jumping, climbing Mount Everest.
I don't
deep
even
sea
know though if
diving.
you have to do it dying or if it's just like I feel like it could be exhilarating if it's dangerous. It could be exhilarating if it's taboo. If it's
Like what? Give me an example.
I don't know.
Because
Like,
I think you're going to pick things that don't have, like, even if it's a 0.00% chance of death, it's not as exhilarating if there's no death sacrifice.
like you said, doing a bank robbery or bank heist or some, criminal act. Some people would think is exhilarating. You're not going to die, but
Why?
it could still be.
You could be. What
All
if
right, you might get shot by the cops.
Shot by the cops, shot by the
Yeah.
security deal. It has an element of death.
Yeah, people have like affairs and stuff because it's exciting, but you think you wouldn't die, but hey, if the spouse finds out and they shoot you, I guess there's a chance
So
of death.
wait. How did we get infidelity as part of an
We went
exhilarating
to
event?
bank heist, infidelity. You don't think people do
But
that for the like rush of it?
Maybe.
I feel like that's what people would get out of it, wouldn't you think?
I'll go with it.
Yeah. What else gives you a rush?
So we'll go to that simulation movie, and I think we may have talked about it before, where it was a plot in a movie where a guy bought a robotic insertion device, and
A robotic insertion device.
and he put on the goggles, and he got to see his dream girl, and he got to have relations with his dream girl by using the robotic insertion device, and the wife caught him using the insertion device. So you walk in the room and your hubby's got the goggles on and he's going to town on the insertion device. Is that cheating? This is going to be a future contention. I'm 100% certain. Virtual cheating, is it real cheating?
My first gut reaction is it's just so weird. I would be weirded out at first.
But would you end the relationship if you caught hubby with the insertion device, knowing it was connected to the bikini-clad girl on the beach?
Is the bikini-clad girl completely just this
Part of the simulation.
made up? It's not like someone else playing online.
But no, it's not a person.
Okay.
It's just 100% an AI concoction that is the perfect match.
I feel like that would be. I have to sneeze. No, I don't. To me, I feel like that would just be kind of similar to like looking at porn. Like some women or I guess men would you consider looking at porn to be cheating?
What is cheating? Let's define
Yeah.
it. What is cheating? Because I agree, I think that pornography ruins relationships just as much as the insertion device would ruin a relationship.
I think it could ruin it in multiple ways. Is it considered cheating, though? Is it bad for you? Probably. Definitely not good for you. There's a lot of things it could do to you. But is it cheating to look at that? I don't know.
Let's pretend that we're not having this conversation. You go home tonight and hubby is insertion device or looking at porn. Is either one of those game enders for you personally?
I don't know if it would be a game ender. No.
Okay. It would be a conversation.
Yeah.
But it would not be a game ender.
I would be, if just looking at porn was the thing, I would be less weirded out than the actual act of the insertion device. To me, that's upping it a level.
Okay, what if the other person also had an insertion device and they were being satisfied with their insertion device while you were being satisfied
Well, and that's what I'm saying.
Is that cheating?
it controlled by another human or this
Well, that's
is
what
just
I'm saying.
a
Like,
video?
we're just ramping it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So is the insertion devices that are two human beings that are virtually having intercourse,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it's not physically happening in front of
no,
you.
I would not be in.
Is that cheating, though?
I would think so, yes.
That's cheating. So if there's a human being on the other side and you are virtually having intercourse with
Yeah.
them, that's cheating.
Yeah.
If it's fabricated by a computer, it's not cheating, but it's worthy of a conversation
weird.
and weird.
Yes.
And if it's just pornography, it's a conversation, but that's it.
Slightly less weird, but definitely a conversation.
What if it's weird pornography? Is it just a higher level?
That's even more of a conversation.
bigger conversation. So.
Yeah, bigger conversation. It would have to be what it is, like it can't be anything illegal.
Well, it's really important to decide what we bless as some kind of like downtime expression of dopamine and whatever, so that if jumping out of plane is exhilarating in a certain way, having sex with someone who's a movie star or whatever kink is, like whatever the version of pornography, isn't it all just the same pursuit? And doesn't it have to follow the Britney Spears effect where it has to ramp up to a higher exhilarity? Like maybe, the playing a video game isn't enough. We've got to get it closer to the bank robbery, which got closer to the bikini girl on the, on the beach with your.
Yeah. And I mean, that's one of the downsides of pornography too. I've always heard is they say what happens to people is if they watch enough of it, they almost sort of desensitize and then they need something even
100%.
crazier.
But it's in the same theme is that when you play that game, you have to keep ramping up what is effective. Like when you take your first hit of a drug, right? You're on the pursuit of that same high, which you have to keep doubling and tripling. And now you're on that pursuit of getting that same mind alter that you got the first time.
Harder to get.
Yeah. So the first pornography exposure was bliss. Like you've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
But you're like, now it's just regular.
Now it's like boring.
It's trad porn, right? Now I got to go to midgets, and then I got to go to just keep higher exponents.
Yeah. So this is gonna make me look weird, and this is probably TMI. When I was in college, I made up a drinking game that it was called Porno Drinking Game. And I sort of pitched this idea to my friends at the time. And I made it like a literal game where you wrote things down on pieces of paper and everybody picked from a bowl and everybody had a position. And if they did you would watch a porn. If they did your position, you drink. And there were other things in there that you would pick. If they did this, you drink. There were things that were socials. If they said this or did this, everybody would drink. And I found it to be hilarious. And everyone's like, why would we all watch porn together? And I said, because it's funny. And they're like, what, are we all going to get turned on in front of each other? And I said, it's not. It's funny. Are you? And then I realized, am I weird that to me, I would need something more than this. Like, this is funny. It's not a turn on. Is that weird for me, or is it weird for? It was just a very weird conversation we had with a weird college kid, but I thought it was hilarious.
I'm morally judging you right now for exposing people that might not be able to handle pornography, and you making it into socially acceptable.
It was
to do during
fun.
You might be able to handle it, but that person that's got the pornography problem, you just walk them up to the bottle.
Nobody has to play. I said,
"Oh, sure."
You get like an old silly porn.
This is the spiral down to the worst of us.
So you think anybody that played my game maybe now has an addiction, and they started it with Kelin's porno drinking game?
If you found out that Shirley now has a porn addiction because of what you thought was funny, and now you've ruined Shirley's life with...
I would say, well, that was probably going to happen anyways, because porn is so prevalent. If she had not played that game with me that night, Shirley would probably have developed it at some point, because porn is everywhere.
See, and that's what my disappointment with society.
Okay, if you go to a party, or let's say you're hosting a party, and you have alcohol there, and you're telling everyone, yeah, here you go, have a drink, welcome, have a drink, and someone takes a drink, and since then on, they're an alcoholic.
Because of the drinks.
Is that because of you?
For sure. Yeah, when you support the vice, you've got to be prepared for everything that happens because of that vice. So you all host a party, somebody gets a little too lit, they drive, they die.
That's a little too lit. That's drunk.
Yes. It was your booze. They would not have had the booze had it not been for you.
I'll say, if anything, that's the danger of porno drinking game, is you're drinking. It's a drinking game.
Right.
I would be like, that's more dangerous than, oh my God, I just made a nymphomaniac out of somebody with this game. That would probably be
I mean, 1,000 repercussions. Like, they go out, they get super horny, they go out and father or mother a child that comes into this world now without people that are taking it serious as parents should.
Listen, like, I didn't say this was a good thing that I did.
But you did it, and that's why we're talking about it.
I found it to be creative and
hoping that there wouldn't have been repercussions. And that's why in the virtual world, if you're just having sex with the insertion device, you save yourself from the major repercussions. So when your husband is inserting himself and talking to the bikini, there's no downside to it. It's not cheating, because he's safely visiting that vice.
But it's the idea behind it. It's the, why do you want to go elsewhere instead of just...
Listen, women make it extremely hard, right? And extremely complicated to get
I am too immature for this conversation.
to get what we need out of it. And so, like, if the machine does a better job than human interaction that comes with all of those complications... I don't know. We'll take it every time.
Women make it too complicated?
Yeah, too many strings. Like, there's too many things that go along with it, like emotions.
You're like, I don't want to cuddle and have emotions and connection. It's just the end game.
Yes. Like, it's men are relatively simple.
I think there are women that just want the end game. I've had female friends that are like, hey, I'm all about meeting a guy out and then leave my house.
This is evidence and argument for virtualized versions of that. So if you take...
Right. And I'm not saying the virtualized version is necessarily a bad thing. It's the intent behind it. And if you have a partner, their feelings behind it. You may have a spouse that's like, knock yourself out. I got it for them for Christmas. That's fine. Then I would not say that that is so much cheating if they are like, I don't have a problem with it. We are fine. He can do this. But if your spouse is like, that makes me uncomfortable, I don't like it, and you do it, that's, I think, when the realm of cheating comes into play.
But I think the difficulty of things is what makes it exhilarating. So let's just say we had the same thing, hood on, got your goggles on, and you drink virtually, and you insert some kind of like thing in the back of your head, and it supplies all of the feel-good chemicals as if drinking. So you take the virtual glass and you drink the virtual glass and you get all of the benefits of it, but you don't feel sick the next day, right? You don't feel on the downside. So you've taken all the repercussions from it. So what if the responsibility is tied to the repercussions. Would you do it if you got all the benefits without the repercussions? Yes. So technology will give you, so for instance, if women are just hard to deal with, right? So having sex with them is a great end, but you got to, like, you're taking the rest of the baggage.
It's a lot of work for just to get what you want.
So if you could just go get it virtually, then women just become disposable. Like they're not even in pursuit anymore.
That's terrible.
But the end of this might be that.
You're kind of painting this picture that men are nothing but just like dogs, and that's all they want.
We're primitive
and they
beings.
never have an emotional connection to anyone.
It's all very, it's related and connected, right? We are willing to take the risk based on the reward. Okay, if you take all of the risk out of it and you give all reward, right? What would be the downside?
Listen.
Yeah.
If you could have a virtual machine meet your needs.
Yes. Insertion device.
Yes. If you had an insertion device and it met all your sexual needs, would you see no need then to be married or have a wife?
Why would you?
Oh my God.
Why would
you better hope your wife does not come across the show.
Across the board, if that were a thing, and you would say, oh, like, I don't have to deal with...
You would because of an emotional connection of friendship, of a partner, of a bond.
Spoiler, men do not have the same emotional connections as women.
Why'd you get married?
Why?
Yeah.
To get that thing.
Oh my God.
To get that thing. Like, that's why...
I'm not kidding. Do not let your wife find the show. Seriously.
No. But there will be a point in evolution where when you don't have to, like, think about where marriage rates would go if you got all the benefit without the downside. They would go to some, but not as many as there is right now.
You're talking about like the divorce rate would go down?
No, the marriage rate would go down.
Oh, yeah. If you could get what you wanted without marrying someone.
If you can get all the benefits without any of the downsides, then marriage rates would go down. Completely.
Well, that would be interesting to see. I mean, back in the day, our parents' generation and before, it was very, very taboo to live together, to be openly sexually active and all of that without being married. Nowadays, it's not so taboo. A lot of people, I think, will live together and have very long relationships without being married. So I wonder if you look at the actual numbers and statistics, what the marriage rate is now compared to back in the day.
Birth rates down, marriages are down, longevity of relationships are down because that men are just like, all right, so women overplayed their hand. They had the ace. They knew if you want that booty, right? You were going to have
that booty?
If you want that booty, then you were going to have to
put a ring on it.
Play that game,
and
right? And so women knew that, and they took the position of power, and they knew that they could make the guy dance and do things that were outside of what they were really wanting to do to be able to get that thing, right?
Do you speak from experience? Don't answer
no,
that.
This
You're
is
going to get in trouble.
Theoretically. All right, so
Yeah.
on a statistical level, if you take away the downside risk and you can get the carnal needs, the primitive needs, without having the attachment to all of the downside, you're going to take it. Like on humanity's level, I'm going to give it 75% of relationships, procreation, all of the things that are necessary, the propagation of the species, go away when you remove the ace from women's hands. Women have the most to lose by the virtual girlfriend.
But this feels like you're kind of looking at it as women are only in relationships for that emotional connection and men are only in relationships for the booty. Where there are lots of cases where if a woman broke a man's heart, he would be upset. If she wanted only the booty and not an emotional connection, he would be upset. It's not like...
But there's a percentage in there. How many relationships happen only because of the promise of getting the booty? Like, think of primitive guys, right? why they do certain things, and then if their needs are being met virtually, how many people would say, okay, well, I've got a career, I'm getting the booty from my insertion device, like, I'm good, right? How many are going to extend themselves into a very, I'm going to say...
But I mean, we have these things. We have, like, even before the virtual insertion device, you had things like prostitutes. You know, a man doesn't have to necessarily enter into a relationship with a woman to get the booty. There are lots of ways that someone can go and get the booty without marrying someone. So why do they still do it?
Getting the booty by paying for it would be a different thing. There's a lot of taboo that goes along with getting it that way, a lot of risk that's getting it that way. That's not a great choice. I'm sure
I mean,
it's
it
the oldest
used to
profession
be,
in the world.
but nowadays, especially with the internet and how much people date and sleep around, would you pay for it if you knew that there was like medical backgrounds?
All of the alternatives are becoming easier and easier to get. So if you wanted to have a short fling on the weekend, you open your app, you scroll down to it, you find your person, you go do your thing, and then you bow out of the, there's no relationships, there's nothing to bow out of. You just move on to your next one. So that technology is decoupling with what is a relationship and what's its value, right? And if we are a secular nation who it's just all about primitive ambitions, you can get everything you really need without having to like take the risk of bringing another human being and all of their baggage into it. That might be the better choice in the future.
No, but you hear things about, like, when we were talking about cheating or the taboo of it. There are a lot of people that will cheat or have affairs or whatever, and it's non-sexual. They have like emotional affairs. So where's the theory there where they're not getting the booty, but they're still doing it? They're still getting some sort of high or rush or something from it, aren't they?
For sure. And we're talking on a statistical level where, there's a bunch of people who get the exhilaration from climbing Mount Everest. That's not everybody, but there's going to be people pursue it for that end. They need, extreme sports in order to satisfy that desire and need. We're talking on like the middle 75% of people.
Well, yeah, and it would be interesting to see if there are statistics, how often an emotional affair will then ultimately lead to physical. Because, like you said, usually you have to get more and more and more.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that's what our future holds for us. When you had traditional relationships, there were trade-offs that you had in order to get the thing that you wanted out of it, where there was a stability in the household. There was the emotional connection with another person. There was having, people that you were able to create because of that relationship. There was legacy to be able to, carry your
sometimes
namesake
financially.
But all of those things go away. Like there isn't going to be a benefit to relationships in the future when relationships are commoditized and they're so easy to get. And, if you want something that's, would I take a fling over a long-term thing and all of its complications? I mean, if you made it easy, that's probably an advantageous pursuit. And that's where we're headed, especially when you take some of the things that were hard, no pun intended.
That's why earlier I said I'm too immature for this conversation.
Yeah, right.
Like,
you're allowed to be. You're allowed to be. But if you take the risk out of it, the taboo out of it, and you make it, mainstream, like I'm going to go take my insertion device and just take care of all of my needs. And then everybody else on the landscape, like, I don't need you anymore. Like, you're only there because I want you. And it's not complimentary to guys and how programmed we are to go after the booty. And I know that I'm picking the wrong term, right?
The booty?
The booty, right? Everybody understands what I mean, so I don't have to make it eloquent. So the booty is the pursuit. Like, the women have all the cards because of the pursuit of the booty, and they know it. We're biologically programmed to pursue that for that end. We don't know why we do it, but we do it, and it is part of who we are. And it is a supreme power over our decision making.
But it's so interesting because
I need more whiskey.
You're like, I need to drink this while we discuss porn and booty.
How did we get here? I do not know.
I recently watched this podcast where, God, I can't think of his name. This like super well-known divorce attorney. He's like a high dollar divorce attorney. He does all kinds of internet stuff. Was talking a lot about this in marriage and how he's like, I don't think anyone should get married.
You can't even look me in the eye during this conversation. I wanted to point that out.
Listen, why do you get to be buzzed and I don't get to be buzzed while we do this? Because it's uncomfortable. It's not uncomfortable.
It's all hypothetical.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of his point. To his point, he was saying, he was talking about divorce rates and all these things that happen. And he's like, you want to be together, be together. You want to live together. You want to be in a relationship. Fine. Just don't legally get married. Why? When you know that it's probably going to end. But he made a comment he was talking about cheating, and it was something like, there are a lot of restaurants that can serve the same thing. You know, you can go to any restaurant, like you can go to any woman and get the booty. Different restaurant, same menu. You know what you're getting. Different restaurant, same menu. So what makes you want to go back to one all the time? Like, I still think there is more than just getting the booty, even for a man.
The advantage, though, to serving one booty and the benefits, when they are no longer benefits, when they are more liabilities, right? Then the other alternative, going to many different restaurants to get the different anatomical features that you're looking for.
What do you mean liabilities?
The liabilities of a long-term relationship where you got to take in consideration another human being and their future and all of the things that could happen along the way.
Yeah, you mean like...
So
choose to support them no matter what.
Yeah. So it's the difference between.
You're like, that sounds terrible.
Like what are those vacation things that you buy a vacation? You got to go to that same place all the time and you got to pay that monthly maintenance.
Oh,
fee
like
and
a
whatever.
timeshare. Yeah.
That's the difference between being able to go out and visit any place you want and whatever. And the timeshare. What are the selling points? The timeshare is you got to really love that place that you're going back to because you're stuck there. If you're desires change, you got to keep going back to that same place. And how many times do you visit that place where it's exciting? You've seen the beach the same way every time. You know what the refrigerator looks and smells like.
Okay, but what happens when you really fall in love with a timeshare and you're like, this is my favorite place. It has everything I need. I am so happy here. But the timeshare is like, yeah, but I want to go and visit other places.
Yeah, when the timeshare cancels you kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
Are you still fine with that?
Well, it's not that, no, we're making sort of like an observation on things that when you file them under, like when the timeshare is new, it is from a logical standpoint and a spreadsheet standpoint, it's a really good decision. I really love this place right now, and I'm willing to make a long-term commitment to coming back here forever. Mm-hmm. It's only the suggestion that some other place might have something different and funner and more exciting.
Maybe you pitch the idea to your timeshare. Hey, let's keep coming here, but on occasion, maybe we go other places and see how that sits with your timeshare.
The timeshare's not going to like that at all. Like the timeshare's going to be pissed.
Some do. No judgment. No judgment. Some do.
But if you go into the timeshare without having lots of the other options, then the timeshare is a pretty good deal, right? Because all the benefits of the timeshare. But if there's lots of different options, then the value of the timeshare goes down. And it's almost like, I'm not going to do the timeshare. Everybody thinks the timeshare is stupid because of the commitment part of it. There's lots of exciting stuff on the outside of timeshares. But what is the benefit of a relationship and of getting married? And you diminish all of those, then the timeshare is like worth nothing.
Funny, the same podcast I was watching that had that divorce attorney, he also interviewed a woman. She called herself a sexpert and was talking all kinds of stuff about how she works with couples and different people about having these like exciting and passionate and fulfilling sex lives. And she herself had said that once she got really interested in it, she and her husband decided to branch out. She's like, I have a boyfriend. Sometimes all three of us are together. Sometimes he'll go out. And I've known people who are like swingers and they have these certain rules. And it's like, look, we love each other. We want to be in a relationship. We are committed. But you know what? None of us are going to deny that it's fun to include other people. And so what's the harm in doing that? And I think some people, maybe that works for them. But I also always think in the back of my mind, it's got to come at some point, it comes around to something happens. Somebody gets hurt. I think as human beings, we create emotional connections and attachments. And I have yet to find anyone that is either a swinger or in an open marriage or whatever that doesn't at some point either break up or there is friction there because of an emotional issue with someone else. I think to say, well, why do this when I can get the booty elsewhere and keep my options open? I think that's not really human nature. To an extent, yes, maybe even more so for males. But ultimately, I think it's going to come back to being, I need that connection. I need that closeness.
But
I need that bond.
Let's take two sides of the equation. We'll put the women over there and the men over here. Mm-hmm. Okay? And if you go into most primitive state, and if you gave like the green light to every man to just say, the point of this action is to propagate, create lots and lots of babies. So just screw everybody you freaking can. How many of the guys would be like, oh, this is a really good idea. Just go out and do your thing. Reproduce, right? That's the purpose of the
But do you have to take care of those spawns?
Oh, hold on. That is not the men's side of things. They can go and have polygamous relationships and just create lots of seed, right?
With
and
no
the women,
responsibility.
The women have to take care of nurture that. So they need a protector and a provider and someone who's going to be there while they're doing their job, which is to make a life happen and a life grow up and whatnot.
But what if that woman also wants to go out and
that's fine.
Have a bunch of, but she can't because yo kid is here. When you gonna come watch your kid?
But there's going to be a point where you go from, hey, that was fun and exciting and exhilarating to, holy shit, this thing has lots of things. No, when I'm in this vulnerable moment, do I want somebody who is dedicated to me and only me? And then the monogamous, value goes way up, where the woman is going to be like, dude, I'm going to give up the booty only if while I'm in my vulnerable state that you will be there for me. And then you have an agreement between two people that I'm going to suppress my urge to go impregnate 97 people, right? For the sake of protecting you if you'll give me that booty. And then you'll give me that booty knowing that I'm going to be faithful to you and protect you while you're at your most vulnerable. Now, we're on a primitive state. And once we have that, deal, you will continue to give me that booty if I will provide for you when you're in your vulnerable state. And that would be the negotiation.
That's marriage.
But once you give that up, right, and you don't care, and you'll go in your vulnerable state, or you'll be able to bullet to the head to the kids so that you don't have to be in that vulnerable state, then you remove the reasons for the negotiation. Then what is it? What's the reason that the guy has to stay along if you don't need us? And what if I don't need you now? I can, insertion device myself. You remove all the reasons.
I mean, I've always wondered about those couples where, what would happen if, God forbid, let's say you're in a marriage or a relationship and one of you is in a horrific accident and either a vegetable or vegetable-like state or still alive, still around, but there is no booty. That's not possible. Maybe not even a lot of deep conversation anymore. It is a strictly caretaker relationship. Do you stay married or do you end that?
Well, we're talking about two things here. We're talking about an agreement that has loyalty and sacrifice and responsibility associated with it. And then we have transactional relationships where people are just getting what they need out of the relationship, and you have both. So I would say there might be 25% of people who would respect the institution of a relationship and a marriage and procreating and whatever, and they buy into it wholesale. And everybody else is just satisfying their absolute needs. And which direction are we headed? Are we trying to create more sacredness in relationships, or we go in the other direction? We're making everything transactional. You just scroll up until you find the booty that you want to hit and hit that. And I will say the trajectory is the other direction.
Oh,
There isn't a responsibility to another human being. And if we go down this, then the insertion device is the primary, exchange.
Where we're headed.
For sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've said before, I can't imagine how difficult it would be right now to be even like a younger person or starting to date, or even if you were married and you become single and you're starting this dating scene again. I can't even imagine the hell if you are somebody who is like truly trying to find a relationship again when it is just like the internet at your fingertips now.
Yeah.
It used to be.
So who has the advantage? Women or men? Does the internet help men more or women more?
I don't know.
Okay,
I feel
let's
like
do this.
Maybe men.
Let's do this.
Okay.
You and I are going to create a Tinder profile for hookups, right? And then we're going to put our profile up there, and we're going to see who gets more interest and who has more opportunities on our Tinder profile. Who's going to win that battle?
You're talking about we're creating neutral ones, or you have one and I have one?
We both have one. And I'm going to say, hey, I'm ready for the hookup. Come see Joe. And you're going to say, hey, I'm ready for the hookup. Come see Kelin. Who's going to get more incoming responses, you or me?
I don't know.
Come on, don't be dishonest. Who's going to get the most incoming?
If it is just a hookup, I will get more. Because all men are pigs and they just want to hook up.
Wait, isn't that what I said like 10 minutes ago? And you're like, that's not the primitive state?
Listen, I am trying to advocate for those men that want more than a hookup. They're like, I'm not just some pig. I want relationships.
They are not on
feelings
Tinder. They are not in the sacred vein of relationships and responsibility and ultimate the sacrifices that comes to relationship. We're talking about the majority of people who relationships and hookups are transactional, and I'll get as many of them as I possibly can. The original question was, who has the advantage? Does the internet work for infinite amount of opportunities for women? So you have infinite amount of places you can visit on your vacation, or the men who have to say, I'm going to make that sacrifice and I'm going to go into that responsibility. I'm going to begrudgingly limit my options for sex, right? For the person who's going to say yes. The person that's going to give me what I want, and then I'll give them what they want in a relationship.
So what happens when someone is faced with multiple options? Let's say you're like, ooh, I got my Tinder, and like 3 different women responded, and they all want to hook up with me. Do you just say, all right, ladies, we're all doing this, and no commitment? Or are you like, ooh, should I go with one I really like?
This is an interesting conversation. So we'll compare.
Okay.
I'm going to do you first. Okay. So yours would basically say, oh, lots of options. Now I've got to sort of associate.
Narrow it down,
right?
Maybe go on a date and see.
So
who I
now
like,
your primitive side comes out, and you're going to say, I'm a woman, and which one is most secure? Which one is a better defender? Which one is going to be more committed to this request that I put out there? Now you're going to give height, which is totally unfair. Give height and financial success and the ability to communicate intelligently, like all of these things, right? My version is going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? They're going to be like,
which day are you free?
Yeah, I'm going to do all. And I'm going to go through them and see which one, for now, fits my fancy of the day. And I will...
Who's available.
Exactly. Because in an unlimited landscape of guys, you can put some attachments there. Where guys, it's like, my job is to procreate with 98 people this week, and I got 3 here. Let's do them all. That's the primitive stake that we have in it. And again, we make concessions based on, we got to limit ourselves down to 1, as long as the transaction is that I get something out of it, which is the booty, and you get something out of it, which is the consistency of the relationship and how much value that it has. When it's reduced down to this level, it makes sense.
So years ago, when a good friend of mine was still single, she's married now, but she was single, and she was doing a lot of online dating. And it got to the point where, she had a date like every other night, I would talk to her and she would go on like 2-3 dates maybe that week and would tell me about how it went, where they went, and blah, blah, blah. And ultimately she'd be like, yeah, but we didn't really go anywhere else. There was not a lot of interest there, blah, blah, blah. But she was like, but had a good dinner. And I'm like, hey, at least you're eating good. Like you're getting nice dinners in these dates multiple times a week. Now there was no booty. It was just a date. So would you look at that and be like, this is total bullshit?
What, did I got to pay for a dinner and I get no booty?
Yeah.
Like, that is a bad transaction. If I put you down for Tuesday, right?
I'm getting booty.
Right?
Yeah.
And I get no booty. What do you think the chances of a third and a fourth date on my side of things are? If I don't get what I'm needing out of it, but the insertion device would never deny me and I don't have to buy a dinner.
Okay, what happens if you go to dinner?
Yeah.
You get the booty.
Yeah.
You get a disease from the booty. Are you not at all now like, ooh, maybe I should not get the booty so fast? Booty comes with consequences. Maybe I need to be more selective and do a couple dinners before I choose which booty. Or are men like, nah, don't care, penicillin, move on.
Nature has a clever way of keeping guys in check. They
Yeah.
really do. So women have more of an emotional constraints to what their selection in a mate, and guys have more like you're gonna die selection. Like it will pummel us because we're more primitive, we're dumber. Like we are really, women give us too much credit for having more variables in our decision making process. Like we are only motivated by certain things, and yes, maybe the threat of having some kind of disease. Like, did you see the girl that slept with 100 people in one outing? Let's talk about her real quick. Okay?
Yeah.
Because this is the worst part of our society. The worst. It's now she's going to do 1,000.
Yeah. And
Right?
did she break down in tears talking about it
Yeah.
too?
Yeah.
But is still going to do it?
Still going to do it.
Oh, that girl's got issues.
She makes a lot of money for the novelty of what she's willing to do to compromise her entire being. She is.
Yeah.
I will tell you, men aren't choosing her for a future mate. No single man may. I don't care if she carries diseases or not. Right?
Yeah.
She's done as far as like in the future, 20 years from now, she puts out a TikTok video of her and how she's so sad about nobody taking her serious. She gave away the only thing that you can give a man that he values, which is that disease-free booty, right? She will never have a long-term relationship unless she finds somebody as equally as broken and low enough standards to be able to pull that off. That's what she bought.
But again, let's say she is disease-free. Your point earlier would make it sound like she would find someone because a man only wants the booty. Ooh, that's a for sure booty. That's who I want.
Yeah, that segment of the transactional, like I want to get the thing out of him, she's fair game. But
you're saying she'll never find someone because why? Because men will eventually want that connection.
That 10% of the people at the top that value relationships as sacred would never even invite that into their world.
Oh, so you're saying the pool of people that aren't after only booty is so small.
Yes.
That she doesn't stand a chance.
Yes, because they value it so enough, they don't make it transactional, make it limited to one other person. Because if you and I were in a relationship and I'd not been with anybody, you not been with anybody, we make the transaction and say, we're going to stick with that. I'm going to depress my ability or my impulses to go see 98 people this week. And in response, you're going to be a loving nurturer that's going to take care of our offspring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Single Joe again.
Single Joe.
Single Joe meets two women.
Yeah.
One is a knockout smoke show. She's gorgeous. She's fun to be around. And you can get the booty. But she's been with a lot of guys. She's obviously gorgeous. Men are falling all over her. She can get it anytime she wants, and she does. And then you meet a woman who's not as attractive, nice, you get along, not great looking, but has been with very, very, very few men. Which one do you pursue?
Personally, me, I'm going with the choice number 2.
Really?
100%.
Because this whole conversation, Joe, I was a little concerned.
100%. But that's me personally. I'm talking
because
on
there's more behind it than just getting the
me,
booty.
For me. But culturally, we're shifting away from the transactional relationships where you have unlimited amount of choices, right? And when you have unlimited choices with no downside risk to those choices, you ultimately choose the thing that feels good rather than is good for you. Just like all of our other topics, if you really look at it and say what's better for you as a human being, emotional connection with another human being is better than the propagating your species and being with 1,000 different people.
Yeah.
But the 10% is what concerns me. The 10% of the people will be able to say, oh, you got the insertion device that's going to compete emotionally against the person that I'm supposed to be, on a 1-for-1 with. Those are the people that are going to like, yeah, I'm not going to take the risk of taking the insertion device, even though I know it's going to be great. I know it's going to give me ultimate pleasure, no repercussions. I'm going to stay true to the person who needs me to be one-on-one with them.
So you married the not quite as attractive, but fewer partners, and someone says, hey, here's an AI-generated program. It's not a real person. You're fine. And the person looks like the smoke show. Do you engage?
I don't, because I know it's going to risk the thing that's solid for me.
Yeah.
But I'm on the pursuit of things that I don't have to worry about. I don't have to question. I don't have to have, create drama, right?
Yeah.
That's more valuable to me as having the sacred relationship rather than the primal, serving my impulses kind of thing. But like I said, I was using me as the analog to look at the aggregate and find out like where we're headed. Are people in relationship transactional? 100%. We're going more and more in that direction where you might have to, interview 100 people to find somebody. And by the time you're done with those 100 interviews, you're used up in all of the valuable ways that the one person is going to desire from you backward. That's why women have the ultimate advantage, but the most to lose in this.
Because I was just going to say, when you were talking about, well, women have, this high hand, so to speak.
For sure.
But they could just as easily enter into a marriage with a guy. They think they're getting what they want. I've got marriage. I've got connection. I've got stability. I have this partner. When the guy could be like, well, I did this to get the booty. Doesn't mean anything to me. I'm still going to go out and get other booty.
I didn't say that it was a difficult or an undifficult or an easy pursuit. I said that you have the leverage as a woman, and the game got a lot harder because we made everything transactional. So you might have great intentions by dating someone every other day, but you gave up the sacred part because you gave in to what primitive instincts men have. And I won't take you for a second dinner if you don't give up the booty. But once you give up the booty, you become less valuable to the person who deserves the booty in, sort of like trade with having the reasonable sacred relationship.
Yep. And see, I feel like I have felt things like that all my life. When I was getting older and entering my late teens, early 20s, and all my friends are now like having sex and dating and going out and hooking up, I never could do that. And I would even be teased, like called a prude and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I just don't want to like give a guy this for nothing. Why? Because so you could go do it with this girl or this girl, or you talk a good game, I give you the booty, and then you're gone. And now what am I? I just played my hand and I got nothing for it kind of thing. It's like, no. The first time, I've mentioned this before, I was a virgin until I was 21, and I made that guy wait a year of close monogamous dating before there was that booty. And I'm just like, this is a valuable hand that I don't give to everyone, and I need to know that if they're like, okay, well, thanks, I'm out, at least, well, I got something out of it. It wasn't just, here you go, and I devalued it because, like I said, a guy can enter into any relationship. It doesn't mean it's going to stop him from going to get the booty elsewhere. So, I mean, you could say women have this hand, they have this power, they have the booty, but the guys have so many options that how valuable is that now?
It's not. And that was the point of this. Is if I gave you a legitimate get out of jail free card, right? You have it in your hand. It's the most valuable thing.
Hall pass.
Total hall pass. Like you have it in your hand. Your need to use the ace that's in your hand, right, do you have the responsibility that you know you can control a scenario based on the superpower that you have in your hand? If you've got responsibility, you try never to use the get out of jail free card. Do you want to use it for a DUI, or do you want to use it for, something stupid, or do you want to wait till it's something that's super valuable? So you will forego all of the risks that could lead you into needing to use your hall pass or your get out of jail free card. Or would you be like, oh no, I'm going to use this shit because this is,
because I have it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as culture goes in that direction where women know that they can get away with that kind of stuff because of they end up using it up on the first, derelict that will accept it, right? And once it's used, you don't ever get it back. It's gone.
Do you have a celebrity hall pass? Like, does your wife say, all right, you love the celebrity or whoever so much, if you ever get the chance, by all means, take it?
No.
No?
No. No. I think that would be a deal breaker, even as solid as everything.
I don't think I've given my husband a celebrity hall pass. I think I have one. Guess I never asked him if I really have it.
I think that's a necessary conversation.
Listen, if I ever meet Ryan Reynolds and I have the chance,
you're taking it.
I would seriously consider it. But I don't know. I don't know if I could.
Sob and cry for your husband in this moment.
I just said I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could do that. Because I am the emotional connection. I've never been the one that can just hook up. Well, let's just go out and let's get drunk and let's hook up. That's not exciting to me. That does nothing for me. It's the mental game. The mental connection, all right, if I wanted to be seduced, you better make me feel good about myself.
The best way to do that is not necessarily in your moment, knowing that you'd be forgiven for Ryan Reynolds, is to picture the person that is on the other side of that equation having a lust object and picturing him with his lust object.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Okay. And so that will tether you to how you would want him to behave in his, like if I
don't want him to have a lust object.
But you do, and you're already worse than him. All right. That's number one.
Listen, we're not arguing that fact.
Okay. So for instance, mine is Blake Lively. I think she's.
What a coincidence.
Hold on.
You know who Blake Lively's married to?
Who?
Ryan Reynolds.
Really?
Yes.
Dude.
They are married to each other.
We are connected.
Same wavelength.
Okay.
You go after Blake, and I'll take Ryan.
So if I was ever in front of Blake, you ever hear the don't meet your heroes kind of things?
Yeah.
This is there. Like Blake fills a role for me as something like, oh, I like watching movies where Blake Lively is there.
After you make your point, remind me about something with her. But go on.
And so if I can picture myself, if I were ever in front of Blake and she was feeling me, like she was getting my vibe and she was like, let's do this.
My vibe.
Let's do this. I would be like, I want whatever I feel about the actress on screen to live. And I don't want to ever experience that in real life because it would destroy whatever that is. Okay. And it's never.
You build it up so much.
Yes. So it's not ever in competition to a relationship. I would say, Blake Lively, I don't respect you enough to ever have a relationship with you. I don't ever want that. You were just filled a little void, right? And I don't even, if it's superficial and it's totally primitive, and I don't give it a lot of credibility.
Yeah, like my attraction to Ryan Reynolds it's not just that he's good looking. There's a lot of good looking actors. It's his personality, his charisma, he's funny. But I could see if one day I'm like, oh, hall pass time, here he is, we're hanging out, and he's not any of those things. And it's like, whoa, that was all a show. This isn't even what I thought it was.
Well, let me help you compartmentalize it. Let's take the physical intimacy out of the Ryan Reynolds hall pass thing. Like, you think you want that, but you don't want that. You want it to live in that little
I wouldn't want it to only be that. I would want it more than that.
Yeah, but you would no. Let's take that and put it in that little cube, and that's something that's saying there's something about it that really gets inspiration in my brain, right? Really, I don't know what part of your body tingles when you think of Ryan Reynolds, but whatever What is there?
All over.
And I want you to put it in that. And it's like, I don't want to deprive my husband who's invested in me by visiting it without knowing what its constraints are.
Uh-huh.
Ryan Reynolds has a little apartment in my brain. And this is the reason. This is what I need from what is Ryan Reynolds. And I want you to make it a safer spot to visit, where you can explain it to your husband and say, if you were not in the room and Ryan Reynolds and I were, what you would almost be willing to bet would happen from that point on. And it's something that you also would be okay with whoever he and that crush would be for him, and be okay with it and put it to bed, is it's not going to be the deal breaker in your relationship. What would you be okay
I'm
with?
confused.
What would you be okay with him doing with, let's just say, his Blake Lively? They put the two of them in the room, and then let's go, not being in the same room.
Nope, not happening. I don't want him to even want anyone else. You have no eyes for anyone, just me.
So in
all
that
women are ugly.
In that cube in your brain, you've got to then take Ryan Reynolds way down on the volume scale, right? When you look at him, you've got to see spoiled milk.
I mean, as he ages, that's getting easier to do. He's still handsome, but it's not the Ryan Reynolds that, was in the movies. It's already different. It's a fantasy. He's a character. And I've been in a situation before in real life, many, many years ago. I remember there was this person in real life where it was like, you ever know someone at night and not during the day? Do you know what I mean? Like when you would go out, and girlfriends and I would go out, and there was always this someone that was in the nightlife, in the bar scene, and the chemistry was there, and I'm so into this person. You want to jump each other's bones. And you ever cross into the day, the real life, and you have nothing to talk about? They're kind of annoying. Like, ew, we got into real life and you're not what I thought you were. Like, I don't want to be with this person. I feel like that's probably what the Ryan Reynolds thing is. Why you don't meet your heroes, I guess.
I'm going to let you sift through that on your own, so that you can make that more whole in your own life. Because I don't know, like unpacking that one is going to be a rough haul.
What, the Ryan Reynolds?
Yes.
Look, he's just a hot celebrity. He's the Blake Lively.
And that's fine. Like
Yeah.
Lamborghini pulls up, and your car's looking at you, looking at that Lamborghini, and like, why can't I be that Lamborghini? Why can't you look at me like you look at that Lamborghini? And that should make you say, maybe I should value what I have. Maybe
I do.
I not like that. Not like the Lamborghini saw. Eyes a little wider, because you've taken for granted the Kia. You've taken the
Like my Kia.
in a different way, right? So the riskiness of climbing Mount Everest gives you certain chemicals that, look at this, it's exciting. The Kia is not Mount Everest. It's like a sand dune.
It's the safe. Exciting and safe.
We have two parts of us. We have the exciting pursuit, and we have, or the Lamborghini, and we have the solid, consistent protector. And we got to decide which of those two are more valuable in our world, and use the, how much not taking for granted and valuing this side as a combatant against the other side that is just, in the abstract, it's very pleasing, but it's not something that we would value in the long term. So my insertion device, I got to know if Ryan Reynolds had an insertion device and you had an insertion device, and you can virtually compromise everything that you are to get Ryan Reynolds, would the insertion device be a thing?
No.
Okay.
Because
you have healed.
Yeah.
You're getting better in this conversation.
Because again, my attraction to him is not just physical. There are lots of very good-looking men. I like the personality, I think he would be funny. I think it would be a great time to be around this person. I like the charisma, They seem like
The-
they would
the
be
Riz,
this
by the
great.
way.
The Riz,
The Riz.
yeah. It would be like, okay, if you had an AI device, not a sexual insertion device, but something where you two can go on a date, would you do it? Now that's more,
No,
that's more appealing.
That's more compromise.
That is more appealing.
We tolerate the date to get the booty. Like I've
well,
laid
listen,
that
one
out.
might lead to the other.
I've
of
laid
course.
that out.
But it wouldn't just be booty. I don't want him just for booty.
If you
No.
put in that Tinder profile that's saying we're going to go on a date and there's a 0% chance of booty, the minute that we read that, we're like, well, on the second date, there's definitely a better chance than the first date. So it's always, even if we have to delay the gratification of the booty, we're still thinking about the booty.
Well, yeah, but you got to have the date first and then the booty. But Blake Lively,
Yeah.
have you seen, like, I swear there is, like, an internet campaign to make Blake Lively look like a terrible person. Have you seen any of
No.
this? I don't, and it may have simmered down now, but there were, like, multiple videos and interviews and things about Blake Lively suggesting she's, like, rude and mean. And I did see one interview where I typically most things you see online are snippets and you don't see the context in which somebody said something, and so it can make them look a certain way. I did watch this interview of Blake Lively, and this woman was interviewing her, and I saw it from all different angles, and I'm like, what the? She's a bitch. Like, why would Blake do that? I mean, made this interviewer very uncomfortable, was rude to her. And so that kind of led into other things like, oh, she got a friendship bracelet from a young fan and she wouldn't wear it. She thought she was too good. I don't think she thought she was too good. It was a red carpet event. Designers pay money to have you look a certain way, and she didn't want to wear it then. She said, I'll wear it later. Which makes me think there's this whole smear campaign against her. Is when somebody would see that and say, what a bitch, you didn't put on this kid's friendship bracelet, even though she said, thank you so much. This doesn't go with my outfit, but I'll wear it later. I don't know. But there have been other things where she comes across as a bit of a bitch. Would that change your mind?
Why are you trying to ruin my fantasy? Like, you picked the one
Listen,
person.
you're trying to ruin my person.
No. I said nothing about him. I agree with you. There's a handsome guy that's very talented and would be
very funny and charismatic and
is
outgoing.
something.
And
When I was young, we used to call them FTs.
FTs.
FTs, yeah.
What's that?
Fuck targets. And
I've never heard that term.
well, it might have been just
like
within,
a fuck boy?
No, a fuck target, as in anybody who was somebody that you would put in your target as something that you want to. But everybody was.
And
in
that's
the fuck,
all you wanted.
That's all you wanted.
No relationship.
No relation. It's a fuck target.
I know there's another term. I've never heard that one. But
Okay.
yeah.
So anyway, Ryan, and I'm a straight white male that would probably consider a homosexual encounter with Ryan Reynolds.
Yes, you would.
And David Njoku is my second one. So
Who?
David Njoku.
Who's that?
He's like an Adonis of a man. Like he is.
Google. Let's see him. Like Channing Tatum, super hot. But one of those, would I want to date him and hang out with him? Probably not.
When somebody is an example of like perfection, it's just part of human nature to gravitate towards perfection.
Yeah.
And that's what Blake Lively is. So let's
Really? Well, that picture, he's good looking.
this one?
No, not that one. He's okay. That one with the jersey, 85, down. Yeah,
This one?
He's pretty good looking there. I can see an appeal. Now, Shamar Moore. Google Shamar Moore.
How do you spell that?
MARMOO. We'll be close enough. There we go. Yes. Yep.
So do
Yep.
we do?
But he's arrogant, I think. He would be nothing more but a pretty face, whereas
All right,
Ryan
so-
Reynolds is the face and the whole package.
So let me tell you this: like I have, let's do percentages here. Over my career, I have met a lot of celebrities. Of the percentages,
For real?
yes, of those celebrities, what do you think percentage? Where I had them up here, and they are not what I thought they were going to be. And there's a percentage of them that were total dicks, and I was like, yeah, I will never feel the same way about them. But how many of them just like I held them in higher regard than they actually were? Give me a percentage.
I'd probably say at least 75%.
75% were on the downside?
Yeah, where they just weren't what you thought.
It's more like 90%?
I almost said 90.
Almost
I
90.
almost said 90.
I'm thinking like of the 20 last that comes to my brain. There was one that was like, holy shit, they're awesome. Like I can think of one.
Who was it?
I can't tell you.
Why not?
Because it's not fair.
Why is it not fair? You're speaking highly of them.
I know, but it's not fair. And then there is everyone else that were a disappointment, and there was one that was a total douchebag.
Who?
I can't tell you that
yes,
either.
you can.
No. So on the end of the spectrum, everybody in the middle was like, yeah, I gave them way too much credit. And there was one who was like, oh, that's uber surprising. And then this one's like, oh, total douchebaggery. Like, because when what you know about celebrities and how they craft their brand, and then when they stop paying attention, like when you're not interviewing or you're not recording or whatever, they're a real person. Mm-hmm. They're just a human being, and they're like, like I put you on a pedestal, and you had nowhere to fall but down to
people
normal.
Forget that they're real people.
Yeah. But there was this one dude, like I'm again not gonna out them for doing this. And we did a national interview where there was a CBS camera crew that was sitting there. I was standing next to them, and they did this, the camera crew, and they were talking about their charitable organization and how they're helping the kids. And literally
how much of a celebrity we talking? Like Hollywood celebrity?
Sports, athlete.
Okay.
And 20 minutes later, they were telling a racially charged, totally racist comment about one of their competitors. Like the going from this person's amazing and Mother Teresa to this guy's a garbage person, human being. When they know that you're never going to say anything to them. When they drop their guard about being presentable and they're just who they are, you're like, holy shit. Like,
yeah.
Totally disappointed.
And then do you ever like, when you meet someone like that, whether they're a celebrity, maybe they're a really well-known local figure or something, when you see that like douchebag side of them, but nobody else does because their persona is like the golden child and everybody loves them. Do you ever want to be like, oh, you have no idea what an ass they really are behind closed doors? I've met a handful like that. Not like any major celebrities or anything, but like maybe more smaller scale, like not even a local celebrity, but just like very well-known, likable people. And then it's just like, oh, if you only knew what they're really like.
I hold a lot of that leverage. And the only reason that you keep being able to talk to those people is that you will discern what's publicly. Like when they come down to you on that level, they know that you have to be someone who keeps it on the vet. So I've never said or done or outed anybody for either direction. I keep those talks and those relationships close.
Well, and I think too, the idea that someone is just always great and amazing, it's just not realistic. Everybody's human.
And it's weird that we expect them to be.
Yeah. It's like, oh, they're in the public eye, which means they have no faults.
So if, Blake Lively's a true bitch and, you've got a musician who won't perform unless you give them green M&Ms. Like that's a believable thing. And I would be completely disappointed if I knew that were something, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But chances are you have you have a privileged group of people who are used to getting their way. The chances that they're going to be total douchebags are really high. So the 90% figure is probably pretty accurate. And then I read Keanu Reeves as like the most human, down to earth, whatever, who doesn't really give into their fame and whatever. And like, they broke away from the norms, what we think all of those people are like.
Yeah, he's supposedly like uber nice and down
I don't want to meet him ever
and
because if you ruin that image of him where he's just another douchebag who's privileged.
I mean, he even was under fire for his, I don't know if it's a girlfriend or a wife or some relationship he's been in forever. She's not the stereotypical celebrity girl. She's older than him. She's very normal person looking. not this made up celebrity that nips and tucks and has makeups and lighting people. She's just a very average older woman. And everyone's like, Keanu, seriously? Like, you could have any woman you want and you're with her? And he's just like, she's a fantastic person. I think she's beautiful. I love her.
True value proposition. And those are the transactions we need to reward more men to take value in the Kia rather than the Lamborghini.
Yeah. But how do we know, though? How do we know he's not cheating on her all the time?
You don't. And that's why I don't ever want to meet him, because that ideal is inspiring. The ideal is inspiring because you want to, not be primitive. You want to be sophisticated. And part of sophisticated culture should be that you're a responsible human being that wants to do the right thing.
Yeah. But there's no rewards for that. And I think people find rewards in doing the opposite. And unfortunately,
the insertion device almost assures that we are going to pursue the primitive sides of ourselves.
Insertion devices and skibbity toilet Riz Fortnite bullcrap.
That's a good ending.